right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and MBRradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. All right, good evening and welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website, the station that is no listener behind. And the call line is already lit up already, ladies and gentlemen. We got an important show for you tonight. So thanks for hanging out again. Last Sunday we was not here because of the holidays. I had a show planned. I was expecting to be here last week, but because it was Easter, so we had no show last week. But we are back this weekend, continuing Rhabdomyolysis Awareness Month. So we definitely going to get right into that at the top of the hour. But before that, I just want to say shouts out to the Sports Collective team. Sports Collective TV, media, and radio. Shouts out to my crew over there. They'll be back shortly. What else going on? I got so much I need to take care of. So much. The basketball team, for sure. We're going to talk about that later. Bags to Canvas is at the bottom of the hour, at the half an hour mark. Shouts out to Big Dre. He's going to call in for that. What else? Got some Life of a series to talk about. I got 3 inspirational reads written, so we're going to talk about those a little bit toward the end of the show. But first, we're going to play our public service announcement. Shouts out to Call Me Go. The way he looks, the facial expression that I have in this window right here doesn't look like we're going to play that PSA right now. So, there's no audio for it? Oh, it's only audio? Oh, well, drop the audio then. Boom, boom, boom. So we're going to play our PSA Call Me Go audio only version right now. But don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back with our first guest. Again, if you want information about rhabdomyolysis, you want to catch up with this conversation, www.rhabdo.info for your information to follow along with that. All right, we're going to be right back. The Farron Dozier Show on KC Radio.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
I have to say that I'm proud of this track right here. I wrote this a few years back. Shouts out to Jody, a.k.a. DBC, my partner, my teammate with the Sickle Cell Trade Awareness. He had this beat-making machine on his cell phone, and we were at the base preparing to speak the next day. And so I was on that thing all night making up these tracks and putting sounds together. This is my spirit being, my conscious mind, and my subconscious mind having a conversation all in one. I'll let you figure out which is which. I know which one. I'll tell you later though. made all this up right here. This is all made up. Yeah, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website. The station is no listener behind. Also, go get the app. Yes, KCAA Radio has an app. You can download that on whatever device that you have, and you can stream us anytime you want. Check out the other shows. I mean, there's shows all week long, all day long, all night long here on KCAA Radio. And if you're in your vehicle, listen to us on 106.5 FM or 1050 AM, and you got to get out of your car, go to kcaaradio.com, click listen live or watch live. I'm in the studio live on camera tonight. Again, thanks for listening in. Let's get right into it, because this conversation around rhabdomyolysis is very personal to me. I experienced that myself. Again, rhabdo.info if you want to kind of catch up about what this rare condition is. And when you look it up, there's different things that can cause rhabdomyolysis, not just inherited genes. There are other things that can happen. So I have a guest tonight who is actually going to help us address another aspect of rhabdomyolysis that has become very important in our children and influenza A, right? If I could say that way. So without any further ado, let's bring our caller on the live. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for hanging out tonight.
You're welcome.
I didn't say your name, so I don't know if do you want to say your name, or you want to be anonymous? You just want to be the anonymous?
No, of course I say my name.
Okay, introduce yourself for me to the listeners, and we'll get started.
Do you want me to tell them a little bit about myself?
Yeah, a little bit about yourself. Don't give it all away though, just a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Well, my name is Wanda. I've been a bedside nurse in a pediatric hospital for over 40 years. I met Farron while I was standing waiting for tacos. He and my son have been friends since radio broadcasting school.
Yeah.
And he was talking to someone about rhabdomyolysis and sickle cell trait. I found his conversation interesting, and I joined in.
And ever since then, you have been my new best friend. I really thank you for just your knowledge and your experience and being able. Shouts out to the hospital that allows you to come here and share this conversation with me. It is so important for our community to really get a better understanding of this, what they call rare condition around rhabdomyolysis. And a lot of people don't even know what that is. I mean, even the people who've experienced it, rarely. I didn't even know what it was until I had to do my research about it. So 40 years. You said you've been working in this field for 40 years, huh?
Over 40 years.
Over 40 years. So that could be 45. That could be 48. That could be.
It's going to be 47.
49.
Okay.
See. Over 40 is plus 45, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Shouts out to your son too, Ricky and I. Ricky's a great guy. Your whole family is nice, and I appreciate them for all the support, even now in the ABA world that we're in together.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have this difficult but informative conversation, if we are able to. And so from your experience, what do you want to just start off with the rhabdomyolysis and what you've seen? Let's go there.
Well, I would start off with the reason that I joined in that conversation was because this year I started to see kids of school age having rhabdo, especially with influenza. And so I started looking more into it. I had been thinking about it a lot, actually. And one of the most common causes in children of rhabdo is viruses.
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw this year is through influenza A. It can be influenza B. It can be other viruses. But what I was mainly seeing was kids with influenza A.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I said is most of them are usually healthy before they get this illness. And then they would get the influenza, and then they're in severe pain.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in severe pain, especially of the arms, the legs, the joints.
Yes.
They get where they won't walk or get out of bed because of the pain. And one of the parents told me it was like a fawn one time. They said it's like a fawn walking or like tiptoeing. And that's something that like the parents haven't seen. And this is, a perfectly normal child gets sick and then all of a sudden has this. What we do is we immediately place them, as you have spoken about, I believe, multiple times in the situations that you've talked about. We immediately place them on high amounts of IV fluid for at least 2 days or more. We keep a really close eye on their urine because they get a tea-colored looking urine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we watch for CK levels. And the CK levels show how much muscle cells have broken down. If you know what rhabdomyolysis is, it's a breaking down of the muscle cells, first of all. A normal level is like 50 to 200. And our patients, although our levels compared to what Farron is talking about are different, but they're children.
Yes.
They have levels of 2,000 to 3,200.
Yes.
And if they're over 1,000, we're going to treat them.
Wow.
And so as more kids kept showing up, then I started researching it. And plus this Farron, I started researching it a lot more. After I talked to Farron, I saw how he was getting all the information out to the people, especially the military, the athletes, and those with sickle cell trait. And our kids didn't seem to qualify in that area, and they weren't having the same kind of thing that people would consider normal reasons.
Yeah.
Like exertion or dehydration.
Right.
And mainly, if you look, even on the list that Farron has put out, I think you have that out there, right?
Yes.
I'm on the phone, so I'm not looking at anything, but I have looked at it.
Yes.
Is one of those lists is going to be viruses.
Yes.
Some says infection, which is a little different, but the viruses themselves, and like I said, for some reason, influenza A was a big thing this year. So what I kind of decided is I wanted to help get the information out to our parents and guardians who are taking care of their sick children, and they don't realize what's happening. Like one of my kiddos that came in, the parents had no idea, and when I said, this is something that we're seeing, and this is what you're going to be seeing, and they were like, because, their child was doing good except it was sick, more like something that someone would consider, a normal illness, and then all of a sudden they wouldn't walk, and they wouldn't move, and after we got fluids going for at least 24 hours, I believe, all of a sudden the kiddo started turning around, and so it's super scary to parents.
Yes.
And so my goal is the same, like Farron's, it's to get the information out to the parents and the guardians so they'll know when to call a doctor or take their child to the urgent care or the ER.
Yeah.
They'll know this isn't just a cold, or even some people think that it's like flu is nothing to worry about, that it's just going to go away. So that was my biggest goal, and I brought on here like some symptoms and things, but that was mainly why I wanted to come on and talk about it. So if you want me to say more, or you want to ask me questions, or whatever you want to do.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so far. I appreciate you for, again, just being able to share what you can share for the listeners. Just so people understand about the influenza, it is, you can have a bad fever, a cough, sore muscles overall. It spreads pretty easily when people sneeze, cough, and of course getting your flu shot can help, but it spreads seems to be easy right? Like a normal cold, like if you touch knobs and things like that. So
Influenza.
yeah. So it's like, and I have my grandson, right? And I remember when he started going to daycare, like he was catching colds left and right. Like that age group is so vulnerable, right?
Mhm.
And so that's something I want people to understand about the influenza. Like she's mentioned, it's kind of like the flu. It's a virus that makes people very sick. You can have a high fever, cough, body aches. And again, it's spread very easily through coughing, sneezing, touching things.
And influenza is the flu. That's what people call the flu.
Got okay.
Influenza A, influenza B. There's even a C, but they call it. Most people call that.
Just call it the flu. Period.
That's what we would call the flu.
Okay. So let me see. I want to make sure I just cover some things. We talked. You mentioned about parent education, right? The symptoms. So what do you think that parents or the guardians should be? What do they usually miss, or when it comes to the flu?
Well, what I was saying is with the rhabdo, which is, it may come right with the flu, but it's not the flu.
Right.
But with the rhabdo, parents don't expect that. They don't, their child's got respiratory issues or something's going on. They know it's something. But parents do sometimes say, oh, my kiddo's okay, I'll watch them, make sure they, do certain things. But getting the rhabdo is totally different because now all of a sudden you have a child who is not going to walk, who doesn't want to stand, who was perfectly normal right before this, sometimes the day before. So do they know everything about it? No, just the same as like what you have been talking about all through the month with rhabdo. It's the same thing. Yeah. There's different things that cause it. But if a parent knows that these symptoms are related to rhabdo or even something else, they'll look into it. It's not, because I know that sometimes people even think like, oh, maybe they got hurt yesterday.
Right.
Maybe they were doing something and got hurt, or they're just feeling so bad they don't want to walk. They don't realize that the muscle cells are breaking down, and that's what happens. And then if you go on with rhabdo, you find out that the stuff that comes from the muscle cells breaking down ends up in, like, especially the vessels of the kidneys, things like that. And and so that's why we look at the CK level, just like you guys do, and it's a lot higher, I think, in adults, and if the situation is because of the other things. But if it's over 1,000, they're getting treated.
Yeah.
And I think parents they don't know that, and so it's scary. And I would never want to see parents or guardians who later feel awful because they don't know what these symptoms meant and what they could have done for them. So again, you have something you can prevent or take care of. And that, I think, is one of your biggest things when you're talking about sickle cell trait, when you're talking about overexertion with the military, the police, because I always listen and stuff that you put out there also. But it's the same thing. It's one of these things where, hey, wait a minute, I could have prevented that, or I could have taken care of it, and I wouldn't have been stuck with these situations. So that's my biggest goal, is for parents to be aware that it's out there and to know that they can talk to their doctor or their clinic or their whoever they need to, the ER, the urgent care. They can go to them and they can talk to them.
Thank you for those comments. And the last piece I want to touch on before I let you go, again, and you and I kind of talked about this offline, is parents who now have to deal with the emotional parts of these conversations, right? Because rhabdomyolysis is a rare condition, right? And people are not aware of it. And so we don't want parents to live in a space of resentment or regret, or I should have done this, or what did I do wrong, or what. So what do you want to point to about that part of the conversation, if anything?
Well, that's what I was saying. That's like that little thing I just said. Is if you are aware, if you have information on things, then it's going to make it. Well, the perfect example was my patient who like I said, the parents came in, they had no idea. And I was able just to tell them, well, we have been seeing this. This is kind of what's going to happen. You're probably going to see your child. We're going to give them a lot of fluids. And once they start getting all these fluids, and you'll start to see them change. We got them a commode and like a little toilet beside the bed, so they didn't have to walk to the toilet or anything like that.
I had that.
The commode.
Yes.
But the thing is, it tells the parents that, look, we care and we understand that your child is hurting, so we're taking this very slowly, but you will see, we're never positive, but you will. What does go on is once the fluids start getting in there and you start doing what you need to do, and we will be following those levels, because that's one of the most important things. Keep an eye on it, see it going down, and you will. And so, like the next day, when the level was half, the parents were like, "Oh yes, the level's half." And when the child started doing, getting up, moving more, first in the bed. I mean, I watched it first in the bed, and then, and then after that, you could just see it. And that's what we want the parents to know. And if you are informed and you do have information, it makes it so much easier, because then you say, oh, okay, this is what's going on. I heard about that. Let me go and check. It's not a matter of or you have to know, or it is to do something about it.
Right.
And that something may be call your physician.
Right.
That something may be go to urgent care, or that something may be to go to the ER. And I do have, just really quick, I do have some symptoms. And what we have is the main symptom they need to be aware of and able to communicate to their medical team is severe body aches and muscle tenderness more than expected, muscle weakness, pain and tenderness that limits movements of joints like the neck or the arm or the leg, swelling of tender or painful muscles, especially if there's no injury, difficulty walking due to pain or weakness, brown or tea-colored urine or decreased urine output. Now, seek medical attention immediately if they have muscle weakness, brown or tea-colored urine, or no urine for over 6 hours with any of the above symptoms that I just talked about. And just having that knowledge makes it easy to get them to the right person, or get them to the right, emergency room. Even going in, because some, not every community hospital knows what's going on.
Right.
And, if a parent says, well, can you get a CK level? They're probably going to look at them like, but
how you know about that?
But that's the thing. Being informed is very, very important.
It is.
And with the kids I take care of, we keep our parents informed. We bring them information. And if you can keep people informed, you're talking about rhabdo. It's rhabdo month. And according to some of the stuff I've been reading, it's not that rare, especially in these cases.
Right.
So, but like I said, I personally had not seen much until this year for some reason, and I don't know why this year, and I don't know, I'm sure they're looking into it, investigating it, and, checking things out. So.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Wanda, so much for coming on and sharing as much as you can about rhabdo and what you've seen, and informing the parents out here on these airwaves with me tonight.
You are so welcome, and I hope if it just helps one person to know and not be so afraid and go do what they need and listen and watch, if it just helps with one kiddo. And you know what? They may not have, I don't know that they do or don't, but they may not have the kind of, we call it sequela, what happens you've talked about with, the military doing the athletes and all that. And they may not have that, but they have pain.
Right.
And it hurts.
Right.
And if it's 1 day of pain or 2 days, or it's still pain.
Right.
So we want to keep them from having that. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on and letting me talk.
Yeah.
And you guys all have a great night tonight.
Thank you so much. And like I said, we got a lot more work to do besides this one phone call in our community outreach. So again, I'm just appreciative of your time.
And I'll be listening to it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streamed from the KCAA.com website. Again, shouts out to Wanda for coming here and sharing her experience and her knowledge about rhabdomyolysis. Yes, I experienced rhabdo myself. Mine was connected to my sickle cell trait. That is my advocacy work. That is my nonprofit work. Between sickle cell trait and rhabdo, those are my main conversations. I was born with that inherited gene, sickle cell trait. No idea that there was any complications that were possible with sickle cell trait. But if you watched the news and seen in sports and military, people have died and collapsed from sickle cell trait exertion with rhabdomyolysis. And again, just some of the key things to watch for, as she mentioned: severe body aches and muscle tenderness, muscle weakness, pain that limits movement in your neck, arms, and legs, swollen tendons, muscles without injury, trouble walking like a fawn, as she mentioned, or tiptoe, brown or tea-colored urine. That is one of the signs. If that urine starts to become dark, that is definitely a sign of rhabdo. And again, you may want to seek urgent medical care if there's the muscle weakness, like severe fatigue. Again, that urine, it says if the urine is for over 6 hours, and the treatment, as she mentioned, hospitalization with rest, of course, IV fluids, and really monitoring the kidneys, because what can happen is, because of the proteins and all the toxins that leak into the bloodstream that hit the kidneys can't filter all those toxins. So now you can experience renal failure. Like, we didn't even get into all that other part of that about the kidneys. That is really one of the most important things is about the kidney functions, because I remember my kidneys were at 50% each by the time I got back to the hospital that night. The doctor in that morning saw the renal failure that morning, but he asked me if I had kidney problems. But then he said it was just a freak accident. I was probably dehydrated. And so they gave me like 2 IVs that morning. But by the time I got back to the doctor that night, my CKs were over 12,000 and my kidneys were at about 50% each. So I was in renal failure at the time that I had my experience. And for me, at the age of 36, they're supposed to be like 150. I believe my CKs were supposed to be that. That's creatinine kinase levels. What is that on the screen? But yeah, just so very important, very, very, very important conversations, and just want to make sure that the community is informed, because again, it's happening in our children, child age, student aged, and don't discount your child, right? Don't discount your child when they talk about how they feel, their pain. Just pay attention. Just pay attention. That's the best that I could ask for you to do. My conversation is from child to parent relationship. So I stand for the child's perspective and perception and interpretation toward the parents, so that the parents can pay attention to that child. Very important. All right, so I'm going to play the PSA again. This is our sponsor, Comigo. www.rhabdo.info. If you want more information, reach out to me at Farron Dozier on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you can get information there at farrond.com as well. Look for the tab that says rhabdo.info. Shout us out, what's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Comigo. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Prayers feel irrelevant. Thought that I was heaven sent. The chosen one was evident. Smack to my face, gut punch, take my medicine. Sick to my stomach, no calling for my mama. Drama filled combos with the father, broken promises. Asking me to hold on, not knowing if I could go on. Been waiting for so long, sick and tired of the same song. Are you really kidding me? Burning third-degree emergency, prepare for surgery. This is hurting me, certainly. Close the curtains, purchasing the final ticket nervously. Purging, rethink, seriously? Trying to take the higher road, feeling what's revealed were lies told. I was so now I'm wondering if you're listening. Please close the distance, please grant my wishes. Please tell me what I'm missing.
In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear.
Lord, you gotta be.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in everyday life.
This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website. The station leaves no listener behind. Catch me on Wednesday at mbradio.us. That's right, mbradio.us. For another episode of the Farron Dozier Show, but the Trench Talk edition.
In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe,
dedicated
to keep us
veterans,
confident.
on that platform.
When we returned home,
Radio. They're out in
we
Denver,
were not armed
Colorado.
with weapons and gear to cope
I
with
met
our
them
own
about
minds.
2021.
I was lucky to find my
great,
combat
did
gear.
a great interview with them, and then just about 2 years ago now, I took my Trench Talk show over there to their platform, and so I enjoy that over there, talking with veterans about my veteran topics. So that's MB Radio, the Farron Dozier Show, Trench Talk edition, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Again, that streams all on their social media platforms. They also have an app too, so get the MBR app as well, and you can listen live on the app. There are a lot of things you can do from the app. Go to the website, mbradio.us, and check us out over there. A lot of veteran talks. Again, for me, that's how I got on the radio in front of you today, now 15 years later. But yeah, I found Blog Talk Radio in 2009, 2010. And, it's just an opportunity to give veterans a voice, find out what's next, have conversations, what we miss the most as veterans is that camaraderie. And so veterans, can have their talk shows over there. They get trained and developed. And then you can be on your own, doing your own talk shows. And I am on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Got a great show for you coming up this Wednesday. It's the last day of the month, and it is another Rhabdo talk. Yes, I got a gentleman who is, he's been in the military, but however, he did experience Rhabdo. He's an MMA fighter, boxer, trainer. And so we're going to talk about his experience on Wednesday. I use that platform as well for Life Toward Sports as well, because I got Big Dre over there sometimes. I got Coach Will over there and Robert Lamar. Again, they're all variety shows. However, that one is more dedicated because it is a military-specific platform over there on MB Radio. So, again, if you're just tuning and listening in, we had a great discussion with my friend Wanda, who helped me address influenza, the influenza A, around rhabdomyolysis and what's happening with our children when they're catching this cold or this virus. Some are experiencing rhabdomyolysis with the influenza A. And so we just want to make sure that families are aware. Again, a lot of people who I've interviewed had very minimal knowledge or even knew about rhabdo by itself, right? So we all know what the flu is, but there are some things that are now happening that can express itself with the flu. And I was talking to Wanda offline again, and I was like, I grew up in an area where they said, is go to the gym and sweat out a cold. Like that's you can sweat a cold out. Well, guess what? That might not be a good idea to go to the gym and sweat a cold out, because look, your body is already under stress already with the virus or cold, and then you go to the gym and you start working out, right? So that doesn't always work for people. And I did do some research, and I didn't bring it up with Wanda because, again, I have to respect. I'm grateful that her employer allowed her to come, and even share what she shared. Very valuable information. But I did do some more research around rhabdo, and there's a difference between the different expressions of it, right? And so the part that I saw around kind of what we're talking about today is they're looking at genetic testing for rhabdo, right? But the genetic testing is not the blood disorders. There could be muscle disorders, right? Do we even think about that people could have muscular disorders, skeletal muscular issues, right? And so I saw in my research how there are some things that are going to be taking place, and there are some actual muscle diseases and some muscle disorders that you could be susceptible to experiencing rhabdo if you're not aware that you have these type of muscle issues, right? These are skeletal muscular issues. And so that's something I'm probably going to talk about on Wednesday. I'm not sure how I'm going to address that because that's something I just did some research on. But they are talking about some genetic testing to find out if people are more susceptible in the expression of this condition called rhabdomyolysis. So if that's the case, we're talking about athletes. We're talking about people. Let's not label this conversation. This is a human being conversation, right? And so mine was an inherited gene, a blood condition. But what if people have muscle conditions? Have we thought about that? No, we haven't thought about that. We don't even really think about that. I don't really hear people talking about, muscle. But that's what rhabdo can trigger, skeletal muscular. I mean, that was mine. I had severe muscle and joint damage. I mean, I have symptoms today. Like I didn't fully recover from that rhabdo experience. So, yeah, it led to other secondary health issues. So that's something we're going to talk about. www.rhabdo.info for more information about that. Again, shouts out to Wanda for coming out. And I just plan on doing a lot more talks in the near future. I've been praying to God, honestly, probably like about 4 years now, because I felt like I didn't want to leave the sickle cell trait community, right, with my advocacy. However, experiencing rhabdo is also my conversation, right? So, look, just think about it. If you're not fulfilled in your life, imagine some of your experiences that you've had in life. Maybe it's a health condition. Maybe it's a rare health condition. Imagine that could be your voice for this world, for these certain groups of people that you are now connected to. See, everybody doesn't care about sickle cell trait. I understand that. Everybody doesn't care about rhabdo. I understand that. Everybody doesn't care about arthritis. Everybody doesn't care about mental health issues. But if you have a conversation that relates to those communities, guess what? You're not alone. You're not by yourself. And sometimes we just have to figure out what's next. This is what I talk to my veterans on my Trench Talk episode. for us veterans, a lot of us are looking for what's next. We joined the military at very young ages. We survived those careers. Some of our brothers and sisters didn't survive those careers. And some of us do survive. And now we have to figure out what's next. Some of our brothers and sisters have a hard time figuring out what's next because whatever that is for them, and they complete their life. That's a whole nother subject. Thankfully, I was able to discover that this inherited gene was my condition, and I found a voice in a whole nother community. Now I'm finding a whole rhabdo community. So as you can see, if you look in your life and you're dealing with some kind of chronic health issue or whatever that is, maybe that is something that you have a voice in, that you can share your story and how you're making it, how you're living, how you're surviving, and now you can have people helping each other. You don't have to be perfect to help one another either, just so you know that. You don't have to wait to be perfect. But you have to be aware of what you're talking about. You have to be aware of your experience, right? And you want to share that because 10 minutes could save somebody's life. 20 seconds could save somebody's life. And so let's lead into that conversation. I was waiting for Big Dre to call in, but if he doesn't make it, that's cool. I will see him on Wednesday. So what I wanted to address the rest of this episode tonight, again, is kind of that. You know, as I was playing the tracks that I created off of that machine that I've been playing, what led that was I was talking about earlier I was on my Facebook Live and Instagram Live, is what had me even write those or put those tracks together. And a lot of it came down to what I was dealing with at the time. And I happened to be working on, in my personal development education, the conversation about hope came up. Hope, right? Hope. And as I was looking in my life and I'm learning about hope and learning at church about hope, because now I'm in church, so I'm looking at hope from a church perspective, it just made sense to me to kind of search my own mind, right? And so one day I got done with my personal development class and I was sitting there thinking about it. And I remember one morning on the prayer line, we were talking about idols, and we were looking at the different idols. And some of us, we idolize different things. I don't idolize people, but what came up in my heart was the whole hope conversation that I had been studying and thinking about. So I asked the prophet on the prayer line, can hope be an idol? And he said yes. And I'm thinking like, well, if hope can be an idol, and my heart is, the Holy Spirit is leading me to these hope discussions, I need to take a look at what hope is for me, right? And so when I looked at hope from a perspective of church, right, and I looked at hope from a perspective of my personal development education, because I trust that education. For 14 years I've been in that work, so I trust those principles. And then I looked at what the world has to say about hope, right? And so I'm looking at what God says about hope, what the world says about hope, and what my personal development classes say about hope. And now those are three different conversations about hope. And then I had to look and see, what does Farron have to say about hope? And at that moment of me wanting to look at what Farron thinks about hope, now I'm having a conversation with myself. Just like I'm talking to you on the air, I'm talking to myself about hope. And so I'm thinking about what God has to say, what Farron has to say, and what the world has to say. And so I'm looking at what does Farron say about hope? And let me tell you, I literally had to give myself permission for my spirit being to look at my heart, to look at my subconscious mind. My mind, when I ask myself, what does Farron think about hope? My mind says, nope, we're not going there. And I'm like, no, I want to, like, I'm ready to look. And my subconscious mind is like, nope, we are not going there today, my guy. So now I'm battling with myself about what does hope look like for me personally. My mind doesn't want to go there. It doesn't want to look. It doesn't even want to give me permission. So what I learned from the Bible, from the scripture, from those kingdom principles is when I go to God, what am I going for? Like, what do I want from God? Like, what do I want? So when I went to God and I understood this, I wanted access. I told God, I want access to my heart so that I could look and see what hope means to me. And by doing that, I looked at the kingdom principles. I looked at the fruit of the spirit, and I'm like, okay, if hope is a door in my heart, in my subconscious mind, there's a door called hope. What key do I need to unlock that door of hope in my subconscious mind? Now, your subconscious mind is where you have those thoughts with yourself when your mouth is closed and your mouth is closed and you're talking to yourself and you're being cynical and you're judging and you're questioning and it's telling you, you better not say that, you better not do that, you know you're not, whatever. Like that voice, that's not you. That's the voice of your subconscious mind. And so as I'm having this conversation with myself, my heart is like, nope. And so I looked at the fruit of the spirit and I grabbed the key of love. You have to, if you want love, you got to be love to yourself first, right? So this is the interpersonal relationship that we talk about. I had to give myself love before I can ask from love from someone else. And then how much do I love myself? So with that key of love, I got access to that door of hope in my heart. And let me tell you, my mind was like, nah, bro, we don't want to look. We don't want to look. And I'm like, look, I'm talking to myself like, look, we know what God has to say. We know what the world has to say. We trust what Landmark says. Let's take a look. We got 3 positives. We got 2 positives so far. We got Landmark and we got the Bible principles. We know what the world says about hope. But what do you say? And what I did was, my subconscious mind literally was just like, it was just like going like, no. And then it just like I could feel my mind just like it just shook. And it was like, okay, go ahead. And with that access of hope from the kingdom principle, using the key of love, I unlocked that door of hope in my subconscious mind. And as I walked up to that door of hope in my mind, it was like looking through, if you got a front door of your house and you have like the glass that the frosted glass that you can't really see inside, but you can see that there's stuff in the house, but you can't see clearly. Like that's how that door was in my subconscious mind. It was like a regular door and I unlocked it with the key of love. And when I took that key of love and turned that lock, I opened up the door of my heart, of my subconscious mind. And when I walked in, it looked like a house. You know, it looked like furniture. I seen lamps. I seen sofas. I seen chairs and pictures on the wall. Like I seen all that in my subconscious mind. But all of a sudden, in this corner of the room, it was a dark corner in my subconscious mind. And I looked over and I was like, what is that over there? It was just dark. And so what happened is, I walked over to that dark space in my mind, and guess what I saw? I saw the 8-year-old Farron, the little boy, under a table, with holding his knees, scared to death. And I looked at that, I'm like, is that me? And I walked over, I kneeled down, and I saw my little 8-year-old self in the corner of that house, under the table, dark. And I spoke to myself like, hey, what's going on? And when I looked at myself, I saw hope mixed with hopelessness, mixed with disappointment, mixed with despair, mixed with the experience of self-loathing, which my language was, why bother? And when I saw that and I looked at what God had to say about hope, what the world has to say about hope, what Landmark has to say about hope, and what Farron says about hope, I got 4 hopes that I'm looking at myself as an 8-year-old. And in that moment, I understand that I can choose which hope am I going to live from. Which one am I going to choose? Am I going to choose what the world has to say about hope, what Farron has to say, what the Bible has to say, or what my development courses have to say? Now, mind you, I filter everything that I live from those principles through what the word has to say. So, of course, I chose, let's go follow what God has to say about hope. In the moment that I reached down to grab my young self from under that table, it's like the lights came on and it was brighter. And I expressed that as I was free from hopelessness, from worry, from despair. Like, we talk about that, but do you talk from that? Like, you got to be able to put your life in those situations. You got to be able to, I know it's difficult, but you got to find something that you trust. You've got to find something that you believe in, that you can use those principles to guide you back through those past experiences so that you can be free from those. I can tell you that God can deliver and heal a broken heart and a crushed spirit. That's my point of this part of this conversation. That's the part, is God can heal a crushed spirit and a broken heart. And that was all from a conversation about hope. Who's that? Big Dre? Oh, Big Dre, I got to catch up. I got to catch you on Wednesday. Big Dre.
What's up, man? I say hi to you before you leave.
Oh, well, how you doing, bro?
Man, I'm doing good, man. God bless him. Back to Canvas, representing, as them say, the fight of the weekend was Colin Benner against Chris Eubanks Jr.
Ooh.
Crazy fight last night.
Well, how did that turn out?
Bad. Colin Ben beats his boy almost 10 rounds, broke his jaw, and Chris Eubanks win.
What?
Unanimous decision. The crowd was like stunned.
Oh, no.
That was crazy. Chris Eubanks Jr. is the son of the boxing legend, Chris Jr.
Wow.
So his father was an incredible world champion, and his son followed in the footsteps. It was a train wreck robbery with no Vaseline and everything else, man. It was unbelievable. And God-fearing, it was unbelievable, man. So
wow.
I had to shout out and give you my props. Love you.
Love you too, man.
Great night of boxing. I didn't check out the Lakers score today. They won.
Oh, they lost. The Lakers lost. I was happy.
So I figured that part.
They lost. So I was happy about that one.
They one more game until they out, of course.
Yep, one more.
Yeah, and that's it. So God is good. So all the time, but we got 2.5 more weeks until we, back to Canvas, grand opening, Hammer Nail.
That's right. Make sure y'all catch Big Dre this Wednesday, man, on the Farron Dozier Show, the Trench Talk edition, mbradio.us. Make sure you go check us out over there Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, man. We got to get out of here, Big Dre, man. I love you, man. I appreciate you. Shout out to What's the Count for all those who are out there listening. FarronD.com for more information about that hope and hopelessness. All right. Shout us out. What's the Count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Comago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Comago.com to learn how you can get Comago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
KCAA and KCAA Internet Television, the station